All right, look, it's just gone on 6:05. I think we have all our speakers here, so we are ready to go. Can I begin by saying good evening to all of you, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Brain Boosters, How to Exercise and Eat Well to Reduce the Risk of Dementia. This is our second series of webinar, and we hope you enjoy what our amazing speakers have to say. I also extend a warm welcome to our keynote speakers and panelists, Professor Kaarin, Professor Tuly, and Mr. Adrian Prakash. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Barbara Ward and the President of SHARE SMR Inc. and Nutrition Australia New South Wales, amongst other roles. I will be the chair and moderator for this session. Before we commence our formal proceedings, can I begin by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet and pay my respects to elders past, present, and emerging. A quick housekeeping, please keep your mic on mute or our host will mute you. Send your questions or comments on the chat to Andriana. Andriana will collate and send them to me for later on. If you really have a burning question, put your hand up, but we prefer for you to save your questions so that we can do all of that towards the end and the speakers have an opportunity to do a great presentation. Can I also apologize in advance if we don't get to all your questions? Time is limited, so do forgive us, but we are recording today's session. If you have any objections or you don't want to be seen on the screen, please just don't have your video on with your face there as well. We will also take some photographs for our marketing purposes. Once again, if you don't want to be there, please, stay away from the screen. We live in challenging and somewhat unknown times, but it's important to keep looking after your health during COVID-19 pandemic. We are here, both Nutrition Australia and SHARE SMR are here to give you some healthy tips and, of course, some practical ways to look after yourself. So what are we to expect today? Shortly, I will introduce our speakers. And then we will have an exercise demonstration, a video, Q&A, and then a nutrition video. So we hope that, you can all enjoy what you will hear today because we have some fantastic speakers lined up for all our benefits, and I'm certainly looking forward to it. So can I kick off by introducing our first speaker. Our first speaker tonight is Professor Tuly. Professor Tuly is an adjunct professor. He's a consultant geriatrician, professor at University of Technology in Sydney, associate professor in Aging and Medicine Centre in Randwick. Professor Tuly, with over 35 years of experience practicing in hospital and community settings. He has been the Director of Aged Care and Rehabilitation of Prince of Wales Hospital. He's the Director of Aging and Medicine Centre in Randwick. His work spans many years in ageing health. His special interests include brain health and the prevention of dementing illness. He has been instrumental in implementation of programs to assist people suffering with dementia. He is regularly involved in, something matters in dementia and mental capacity. Please join me in welcoming Professor Tuly.
I think I'm online now.
Okay, terrific. Selena, I'll get you to move this screen.
So, shall I start talking? And thank you for having me on board this evening. I have a brief period of time to talk to you about some of the issues in ageing and dementia, and I suppose I'd like to focus the conversation really not so much around dementia, although that's what we're going to be talking about, but rather thinking about the ageing brain. And I suppose the moral at the end of this is that it's very clear that we will all need to have a brain later in our lives, and it's important that we preserve and keep it supple and neat and working as long as we can. And so that's the name of the game. And the bottom line is that nutrition, exercise, and various other things we will talk about tonight are really important in trying to preserve our brains for when we might need it a little bit later on. And when I say we might need it a little bit later on, it's really about preserving the reserve function. Our brains are enormous. It does an awful lot of things. And although when we talk about dementia, we're really talking about, people talk about memory, we need to think about other things that the brain does. The brain allows us to walk and to function in society and keep our balance and prevent falls and allow us to drive, do a whole range of things that are far and above just the thing we talk about in people who are suffering from dementia with Alzheimer's disease. We focus on the brain, does an awful lot of other things. And I must say that we just need to recognise that brain diseases are enormously common as you get older. And so I think Kaarin Anstey will talk a little bit more about this later. But just remember that by the age of about 80 years of age, a good 20 or 30% of people are suffering from brain disease to the point where it's actually affecting their daily lives. And so when we're in our 60s and 70s, and more particularly when we're in our 40s and 50s, that's the time when we can do an awful lot to try and head off the diseases that lead to dementia. I see many people, that's what I do most of the day, is seeing people with real dementing illness that's caused problems in their daily life. And after we investigate them, make a diagnosis, tell them what's wrong, the bottom line is that the therapies that we have are limited, but there are some important therapies, like, for example, we advocate good nutrition, healthy lifestyle, exercise. And the frustration that I have when I see people in their 60s, 70s or 80s, the frustration I have is that really I should have been seeing those people when they're in their 40s, 50s and 60s, because that's when the impact of those measures, exercise, diet, healthy lifestyle, that's when those measures really would be effective. And it's just a shame that we aren't able to put those measures in place many years before, but that's why we're here today, because we can put in place many of those measures. So there are a range of preventive measures that will allow our brains to maximise their function and prevent the progression of diseases as we get older. The most important thing that I advocate in younger people who want to preserve their brain is a healthy lifestyle. Actually, let me start by saying there are a number of factors that really do a lot of damage to our brains, and one of those is smoking. And I just want to highlight the fact that smoking and obesity and too much sugar and a range of those sort of things, just healthy lifestyle measures, do enormous damage to our brains. Actually, let me say, it's not only to our brains, but our whole vascular system. And it's the vascular system which is the most important thing that nourishes and supports our brains. And just remember that a fifth of the cardiac output, or the blood that comes from our hearts, actually goes to nourish the brain. And so you can see that the brain is enormously, that the functioning of the brain depends enormously on the blood supply. And the blood supply is affected by all those factors: obesity, high blood pressure, excess sugar, cholesterol, high blood pressure, smoking, and just literally just other things that just make our whole body generally function better, like exercise and good nutrition. I think it's important to recall, to remember that the most important things we can do to preserve our brains is to start working on those things now. I don't know how long I really want to go on because I will be answering many questions later on in the discussion. However, just remember the moral of this story is preserve your brain for later. And there are a range of things you can do, and we'll hear about them tonight.
Thank you, Professor Tuly. I'm sure we all have got lots of questions, but I have to say I was almost going, oh, I don't know whether you saw me or not, because I'm one of those naughty people who has very sweet tooth. So I'm going to have to mind myself now. Thank you very much for your presentation, and I personally am very grateful for you to be here this evening, so thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, our next speaker is Professor Kaarin Anstey. Professor Kaarin is the director of the New South Wales Aging Futures Institute and senior principal research scientist at NeuRA and co-deputy director of ARC Centre of Excellence in Population Aging Research. Kaarin's research program focuses on the causes, consequences, and prevention of cognitive aging, dementia, and common mental disorders in adulthood. A second focus is on older drivers' risk assessment and safety. Kaarin has worked extensively in longitudinal studies and leads the Path Through Life project, a large cohort study focusing on common mental disorders and cognitive function, based in the ACT and surrounding regions. Kaarin is the chair of the International Research Network on Dementia Prevention, director of the Board of Dementia Research, Australia Research Foundation, an advisor of the WHO Dementia Program, and a member of the Governance Committee of the Global Council of Brain Health, an initiative supported by the American Association of Retired Persons of Age in Age UK. I think we're in for a treat to have someone like Kaarin with us. Kaarin, thank you so very much for being with us, and a warm welcome. Over to you.
Pleasure, thank you. Just going to share my screen.
I've shared the screen.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, good evening, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here. I'd also like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land where I am, and that's the Ngunnawal people. I'm actually in Canberra speaking to you from here, even though I work in Sydney. I'd like to pay my respect to elders past and present and emerging. Just on my first slide, I just hope that's showing up clearly on your screens. I have actually got here a picture of an atrophied brain in the middle there and a healthier brain on the right. And in the MRI scans, you can also see here on the left, if you compare, there's a brain with a lot of black in the middle, that's brain atrophy, and a slightly healthier brain on the left, but not overly healthy. So I think, you know, we had a discussion last night amongst the speakers, and one of the points we were just saying was one of the issues we all have is that we actually can't see brain aging, and we can't see that damage that's accumulating over the adult life course. So compared to other areas of aging, it's harder to recognise that it's happening. So the reason why, you know, we could ask, why is this so important? It's not just about us as individuals, it's really a global issue. So as Tuly mentioned, dementia is highly prevalent in adults over the age of 65 globally. It's about 5 to 7%. And the numbers are increasing, and they're increasing more rapidly in low and middle income countries. In Australia, we've got about 430,000 people living with dementia, and that's expected to increase to about 900,000 by 2050. And that's with dementia. There's another 20% of adults over the age of 70 who have cognitive impairment that doesn't meet the criteria for dementia. So it's a highly significant problem. And I know many of us are focused on COVID at the moment, but this is an ongoing issue that is affecting all of us as well, and interacts with other factors such as COVID. So just start off by this, showing you this slide here. which is the result from a very, very comprehensive systematic review of all of the risk factors of dementia. And I don't expect you to absorb the detail of this slide. The bigger point I wanted to make was that if you look on the protective factors there on the lower part of the slide, the protective factor which had the strongest effect, so the biggest benefit on risk of dementia, was a healthy dietary pattern. So I think that just puts into perspective, there's many things we can do for brain health, but diet is really up there in terms of its significance for neuroprotection, along with those other things such as physical activity, ceasing smoking, low to moderate alcohol, and managing vascular risk factors, etc. So I'm just going to focus on diet tonight because this is a nutrition audience. Hang on, I'm just getting some issues with my screen here. And now, if you look at diet in relation to brain health, there's really 4 areas of diet, 4 components of diet that have been examined, and then there's different types of dietary patterns that have been examined. So the literature talks about B vitamins, fatty acids, phytochemicals and alcohol. So all of those areas have been linked to brain health quite specifically in sort of animal research and in human cohort studies. And then we've also got different dietary patterns that researchers have examined to look at their benefit or risk in relation to brain health. So I'm just going to cover each of those briefly. The first one is the B vitamins. So homocysteine, when a person has a raised plasma homocysteine, that's a marker of their vitamin B status. And research has shown that having a high homocysteine increases your risk of dementia. And it's usually accompanied by low levels of the B vitamins, folate, B6 and B12. And homocysteine can be reduced by administering B vitamins. So Tuly probably knows about this medically, but it's often not mentioned when people talk about diet and dementia. So this is one of the areas of diet that is important for brain health. There's a number of plausible mechanisms by which homocysteine may damage the brain. This isn't proven. These are based on some experimental studies that it's shown that having a high level of homocysteine leads to brain atrophy. Now, when they've conducted randomized controlled trials, they haven't had highly significant results because often the people included in those trials haven't had high enough homocysteine. So you actually have to, if you just give B vitamins to a group of people who aren't deficient, you won't get a benefit for cognition. But if you tailor the treatment to people who need it, you will find it. So that's one area of diet that is important. The next area is fatty acids, so particularly the omega-3 fatty acids. So these decrease in aging, and there's a lot of research, which I'm sure many of you are aware of, that omega-3 fatty acids are neuroprotective, and there's actually robust evidence from cohort studies, so long-term studies that have followed people often for consumption, have reduced risk of dementia. And it looks like you only need about 2 servings of fish a week, so 2 or more, to get that benefit compared to people who eat no fish. Of course, omega-3 fatty acids are also abundant in nuts and herbs and some plants. And they also reduce the risk of cardiovascular disease and stroke. So there's many benefits from eating these. Unfortunately, the trials that have used sort of capsules of omega-3 fatty acids have not been able to show a benefit in reducing risk of dementia. So those trials, it's a bit like the B vitamins. The randomized controlled trials tend to be relatively short, and we're talking about dietary patterns over decades. We're talking about lifestyles that have a very slow but cumulative effect on the brain. So often when people conduct a trial over a year, they don't get an effect because it's too short, or they haven't targeted the dose or the samples carefully enough. So here we have a mismatch between all of the epidemiological evidence showing that these are neuroprotective, but the trials are not yet showing a benefit. The other area of nutrients are the phytochemicals, particularly the carotenoids and the polyphenols. The brain has the highest metabolic rate of all organs in the body, and the phytochemicals have antioxidant and anti-inflammatory properties that remove free radicals produced during metabolism. So there's been a number of studies now showing that a high vegetable intake is associated with lower risk of dementia and a lower rate of cognitive decline. So it's kind of common sense, it's what your grandmother told you, but the research is now backing up people that eat a lot of leafy green vegetables and fruit do have a reduced risk of cognitive decline when compared to people who do not have a diet that has many vegetables or fruit included. There hasn't been many RCTs on this, so I can't comment on those. The next dietary component I want to talk about is alcohol. It's very controversial in relation to brain health and dementia risk. We know that people that have hazardous levels of drinking have an increased risk of dementia, so there's a type of alcohol dementia. The epidemiological studies have shown that light to moderate drinking has actually been associated with a reduced risk of dementia, and people are always very happy when I say that in the talks that I give. So moderate, say 1 drink a day for women and up to 2 drinks a day for men. I mean, the guidelines do change, and they're slightly different in different countries. It's been shown again and again, we've seen it in Australian data, that the light drinkers do have a better cognition and less cognitive decline. The problem with the research is that we tend to compare the drinkers to the non-drinkers, and that the people who do not drink alcohol may have be ex-drinkers, very, very heavy drinkers, or may have some health problems that are increasing their risk of dementia. So it's very difficult to interpret these findings, and there have been neuroimaging studies showing that any amount of alcohol is associated with things like white matter changes. So it's very controversial, and the other issue is that alcohol consumption is actually associated with an increased risk of some cancers, even very low levels. So what we say with alcohol in relation to dementia is to stick to the national guidelines, the NH and MRC guidelines for safe drinking. The next, I'm just going to move now onto the actual dietary patterns, which is probably more useful than, it's good to know about the underlying nutrients, but the dietary patterns are what more characterise people's lifestyles. So there's meta-analysis data showing that the Mediterranean style diet has been associated with a reduced risk of mild cognitive impairment and Alzheimer's disease. In Australian data, we've looked at this in 2 cohort studies and not found a protective effect of the Medi diet, unfortunately. And we think it may be because the comparison group, because Australians have a relatively healthy diet compared to some of the studies where these findings were made in the United States. We're not sure why, but I have got some good news about another diet that we found to be neuroprotective. There's also evidence in support of the DASH diet to be neuroprotective to reduce cognitive decline. So that's a dietary approaches to stop hypertension. That's a US diet. You can Google that and find the details. It's a very healthy diet designed to protect you, to reduce heart disease, risk of heart disease. So, and we know about a healthy heart being linked to a healthy brain. There's a lot of research that's also done when people have analysed dietary patterns. They've just looked at what they would call a prudent diet, which is just like a healthy diet, lots of fruit and vegetables, legumes, and minimal processed food. And they've compared the prudent diet to what we call a Western diet, which is usually lots of processed food, low in fruit and vegetables, lots of red meat, and lots of saturated fat. And this has been shown a number of times now that people who have a prudent diet have less cognitive decline longitudinally over follow-up. So this is studies where they measure cognition repeatedly over many years in older people. So the prudent diet has been shown to be protective in a number of studies. We've also shown in Australian data it was associated with less hippocampal atrophy. So the hippocampus is part of the brain that atrophies early in Alzheimer's disease, and you need that for your memory. So we saw a poor diet led to greater atrophy in that brain region. But the diet I'm really excited to tell you about is what we call the MIND diet. It's the Mediterranean DASH diet for neurodegenerative delay, and it was developed specifically for brain health. So things like the Mediterranean diet is really a lifestyle diet. It wasn't actually designed to protect the brain. It was based on the Mediterranean lifestyle, and then the DASH diet was based on preventing heart disease. This diet was developed by a researcher called Martha Morris from the United States, and she did a lot of research looked at the animal literature and the human literature to identify the nutrients that were shown to be neuroprotective in studies, and then she designed this diet, and then she analysed data sets and looked at diet, and she found that people that had a high score on her diet scale, so her scale measures how compliant you are with this diet, people that had a higher score had a reduced risk of cognitive impairment. And what was really important about this diet, it's actually been associated with less of the neuropathology associated with Alzheimer's disease. So it's been shown now in a number of studies in the United States. And then we published a study last year where we followed our cohort for 12 years in Australia, and we found that people who adhered to this diet in Australia also had a reduced risk of dementia and cognitive impairment. So we've backed this up. We didn't find the protection for the Mediterranean diet, but we did for this particular diet. It's very similar to the Mediterranean diet, but it's different because it emphasises having green leafy vegetables daily and berries specifically. So that was the good news. I've just about finished. So just to summarise, the brain changes associated with cognitive decline do start early. They start before you'll notice any cognitive changes. So we need to take a life course approach and adopt these healthy lifestyles early. As we said, we can't see those brain changes that are occurring. The diet and diet-related factors do influence the trajectory of brain ageing and your risk of dementia. There's a lot of evidence for that now. It's strong evidence. It's a strong recommendation of the WHO guidelines for reduction of cognitive decline and dementia to adopt a healthy diet. And there is evidence for some of the specific nutrients and dietary patterns now as well. The RCTs have been disappointing, but there's a number of methodological issues. The cohort studies are much more consistent and support the MIND diet, but all have shown benefits in different studies. So that's all from me, and I look forward to questions later. You're on mute. Barbara, I think you're still on mute.
Thank you. I was just saying that we all know about these wonderful diets, but we need these reminders, and it's so wonderful that you brought us some terrific good news today. Look, we're going to go into a little bit of an exercise demo. So if you so feel inclined, do join in and move it a little bit. Okay, over to you, Selena.
Is the video sharing?
Should be share screen.
Sorry.
Here we go. No, that's not it.
Stop sharing. I'll just go to the video here. Screen, and I'll just go to it.
Yep.
Hi, my name is Kaarin. I am a fitness instructor for 25 years. I work for SHARE Learn to Life. My passion is to empower you to be active and healthy. Today we will conduct a program called Fitter and Stronger. Come along, join in. Well, we're going to start off with an aerobic exercise warm-up. So with this, we can do it standing nice and tall, shoulders back, tummies in, nice strong arms, knees lifting up. And don't forget to breathe. Breathing in.
Oops, what happened?
Shoulders back, tummies in, breathing in, exhaling out. For our second warm-up, stand again if you can, and it's a heel dig, heel dig, heel dig. So we heel, bring it in. With our arms, we're swinging them from left to right. Again, standing tall, always standing tall. Shoulders back, tummies in, and breathing. Breathing in, breathing out. Again, if you cannot stand, grab the chair. Swing the arms from left to right. Heel dig, right arms to the side, right heel, digging it into the ground. To the left, to the right, tummies in, exhaling in, exhaling out. Shoulders back, and don't forget to smile, everybody. We're having fun. Third warm-up. Again, we're going to stand tall. We're going to march, but this time we're going to push, push, push. Left arm out, right arm out, as if we're moving that mountain. Pushing, pushing, pushing. Don't forget, shoulders back, and standing tall. Again, if we cannot stand and do this exercise, grab the chair, have a seat, and push, push, and march. Breathing in, breathing out. Tummy's in, sitting tall. March it out on the chair. Hands shoulder level. Circling them. Forward, little movements. And then backwards. Again, little movements. Next aerobic workout, warm up, sorry. To the side. We're going to step to the in front of you, pull it in, a single step, and pull. Reach out and pull. Reach out and pull. Reach out and pull. Again, with the chair. If you cannot stand, we're going to do the left leg. Both arms out in front, left leg to the side. Bring your left leg in when you bring your arms in. Right leg out, arms out. Bring your arms in, bring your right leg in. Again, don't forget to breathe in and out, sitting tall, shoulders back, tummies in. So we really need to focus always on our tummies in and keeping our shoulders back and sitting tall because it strengthens our spine. And the most important thing as we get older is that we need to strengthen the spine. Otherwise, we tend to lean forward. And that's what will happen to us. So remember, always stand tall, sit tall. Again, reach out with your arms as if you're going to grab something, bring it into your chest, and bring your leg in. Reach out again, right leg out, and then pull it in. All right, everyone, so now we're going
That was great. So how many of you actually did some exercise, let's say?
I did it, Barbara, Rosa.
Oh, very good.
I love it, yes.
That's terrific. So look, with that, got to a little bit of Adrian is the General Manager of SHARE SMR Inc., one of the fastest growing health and wellbeing organizations. Adrian plays an integral role in building a collaborative and inclusive culture that empowers everyone to grow and develop. Under his leadership, SHARE has expanded its depth and reach in the community, and he has created a sustainable future. Prior to joining SHARE, Adrian held senior executive roles in Qantas and the hospitality industry. He sits on a number of not-for-profit boards and is a community leader. Adrian is passionate about serving the community and delights in the knowledge that through SHARE, he's able to provide a platform for people to be better educated and have access to affordable and friendly health programs. During COVID-19, Adrian's been reaching out to culled, vulnerable, and isolated people. Please join me in welcoming. Okay, over to you, Adrian, and
thank you, Barbara.
Selena.
Welcome, Adrian. It's Rosa.
Good evening, Rosa. Good evening. Thank you, Barbara. Can I also thank my fellow panelists, Professor Kaarin and Professor Tuly. Let me begin with the background on SHARE SMR Incorporated, who we are exactly, and what it stands for. SHARE stands for Self-Health Action, Responsibility, and Enrichment. SHARE strategy is closely aligned to New South Wales Government Health strategy, with including tackling overweight and obesity. I think there's a bigger factor in Western side is obesity, we all know. So shall we go to slide 4? SHARE is not for profit, but for purpose organization. It is an award-winning with proven record of providing exercises classes to people over 55 in the community since 1983. That's a long time. SHARE delivers caring, targeted, affordable, flexible, and relevant classes, programs in non-threatening settings through our fully qualified community educators and accredited fitness instructors. We make a real difference in people's life, particularly older people. Some of our participants are over 90-year-old and have been attending our exercise classes since SHARE was initiated in 1983. We are specialized and leaders in prevention and in health promotion. Health and well-being is our passion and our purpose. Staying active as you age has clinically proven benefits for mental and physical health. Mental health reduces risk, severity of depression, and improve mental alertness and confidence. In heart health, we do controls and cholesterol. This is all goes down with the exercising regularly. SHARE also runs programs called Stepping on and Falls Prevention. This improves muscles and bone strength, maintain flexibility and balance. It's an amazing program, and we always encourage our senior participants to do participate in prevention programs. SHARE is also connected with community support, reduce loneliness. We have people during COVID-19 who were extremely isolated, and SHARE has demonstrated act of kindness by delivering food hampers, checking out on people, taking them out. This is all about improving support and individuals. A healthier state of mind, a number of studies has found that exercise helps depression. Exercise may block negative thoughts or distract you from daily worries. Exercising with others may provide an opportunity for increased social contact. Increased fitness may lift your mood and improve your sleep patterns. Exercise may also change levels of chemicals in your brain. Regular physical activities helps you to deliver oxygen and nutrition to the vital parts of your body. This also helps you control and manage your weight. You will feel better and look better. Exercising regularly, that is all about. Our integrated exercise programs focuses on physical activities, mental health, chronic disease, pain management, social connections, stress, smoking, healthy diet, self-care, overweight, and obesity, mindfulness, good sleeps, habits, healthy relationships, sexual health, and poor body image. Exercise is not only important for your heart, lungs, and muscles, but also for your brain. Research shows that exercise may help keep your mind sharp, promotes feeling of alertness and well-being, and words of depression and anxiety. Our programs are available online. We offer a series of free online classes each week led by our qualified instructors, as well as a variety of YouTube videos that can be viewed at any time. Social isolation is a huge, and most of our participants tell us that they attend many of our classes for friendships and sense of connection. And that is an amazing, SHARE has an amazing program. Our programs have proven health impacts. So friends, what's not to like about exercise? It's always good to connect and exercise. I would highly recommend. Our location, SHARE runs in 58 different communities across Sydney with over 4,000 participants annually. That's a fairly good number, and I'm very passionate to numbers to double up within 2022. 4 in 5 participants are retirees, almost 60% cleared, and 94% of participants are female. A good health and well-being is influenced by many factors, and to support our intention of building stronger, healthier, and meaningful communities, our classes improve long-term health outcomes. freely weekly support, SHARE has initiated Savvy on the Net for Nepalese community. We're encouraging them to stay connected with families abroad, people around here. It's all isolated. It's an amazing program and it's working effectively. We also initiated Walking Buddies. We have Tea and Talk. That's a really good program. And we also have created with color and arts as therapy. This is all due to COVID-19, works hand in hand. Supporting local communities, we are actively involved every day in improving the health and well-being of local communities, increasing women's health, literacy, and supporting domestic violence programs. Our outbreak helped those most affected maintain access to healthy foods. We also offered free virtual seminars, workshops, and training programs. This is all has been initiated and started in 2020. Partnering with others, partnering with purpose. We continue to build strong partnership with leading experts, allied health, local councils, state governments, and organizations in other sectors to enhance capacity and capability across this sector. The benefit of regular exercise activity is important. Get in touch with us. See here some of the testimonials from some of our participants. My health, fitness, and general outlook have definitely improved thanks to this program. Some of the programs are conducted by Louise Kaarin. She's an amazing instructor, and she is full of confidence and always encouraging people to participate. Amazing mentor. Also, we have a lot of beautiful letters from participants, especially to Peter White. He's absolutely an excellent mentor. He's an amazing leader. We also have Alex Gelvin, who is a master of Tai Chi. He conducts amazing programs, and he has about 400 followers for SHARE participants. And he continues to build healthier, stronger, and more connected communities. So I will stop now, but before I do, can I encourage you to join or recommend someone to join a SHARE class today? Best decision you will ever make. Thank you.
Thank you, Adrian, for that presentation. So I hope that has given you some idea of from Professor Tuly, Professor Kaarin, and Adrian about how we really should be looking after our lives. We will now go into question time Q&A. So if you do have any questions, please put it into the chat and we will try and ask those questions on your behalf. I do have one question for you, Professor Tuly. And the question is, what's the one biggest mistake you see young people doing when it comes to their health with increased risk of dementia?
One thing, well, there's lots of things, but I mentioned probably the most significant risk factor. It used to be much worse, but I see it often, is smoking, exposure to smoke. I think everyone has become so consumed with the fact that smoking, it's very clear that it does a lot more damage to your blood vessels all over the body, including your heart, but also the silent blood vessels in your brain. And that's what I do is I look at brains all day and all I see is the results of a lifelong smoking, ignoring blood pressure and all those other risk factors that we talked about before.
Thank you. We have a question. Are eggs good in a diet? It seems to be very controversial. I think that one's for you, Professor Kaarin.
Hi. So the MIND diet doesn't say much about eggs. So it's not really for or against eggs. So I think if they're consistent with the overall dietary pattern, that they're fine.
Okay, thank you. Okay, and we have another question. Oh, this one is for you, Adrian. Does swimming help?
Absolutely. Barbara, thanks for asking that question, because I did not mention about hydrotherapy programs. The SHARE runs amazing hydrotherapy programs. It's fantastic for osteoporosis, not only for the health side of it, but also physical part of it. Swimming, running, jogging, this is all leads to an excellent healthy lifestyle. Any part of exercise program that you conduct is going to have a benefit, and the benefit is beautiful benefit. Outcomes are amazing. You will feel healthy. You feel rejuvenated.
Thank you, Adrian. Professor Tuly, can you explain the importance of sleep? And also, are there any brain exercises?
I'm no expert on sleep, but I know that the brain needs to be rested, and there's no doubt that there's lots of research that shows that healthy sleep patterns are very useful in producing a supple and well-nourished and rested brain. In fact, one of the things that I see, again, from my clinical experience, is that lack of sleep or poor sleep does affect cognition. So everyone's familiar with testing an older person with mild dementia, that they do better when they're well rested, and as soon as they become less rested, they perform worse. The other question was, I can't remember. You went on and asked something else about the benefits of Barbara. My memory isn't so good at the moment. I can't hear.
Sleep and brain exercise.
Oh, brain exercise. So there's many. The thing about the brain is the more you use it, if you don't want to lose it, you use it. And there are many brain exercises. Everyone knows about Sudoku and Scrabble and all those sorts of things. The moral, though, is at the end of the day, you don't want to be a person that can't remember anything but can still do Sudoku. So it's about exercising all the different parts of your brain. And the things that we know is very useful in exercising the brain is social engagement. There's something about talking and interacting with people that really does light up. You can see the brain scans, functional brain imaging of people who are talking and interacting do a lot. You can see the whole brain lighting up. So everyone talks about the importance of social. We tend to be neglecting that to some extent, and we need to continue our social interactions one way or the other.
Mm-hmm. So there's a question here about weights. We know that weights are good for bones. Professor Tuly, are they good for your brains?
Well, one of the things about exercise is that the research over the last few years has shown that weight exercises, exercises that really put pressure on your muscles and build muscles are more effective or as effective or more effective than simple cardiovascular exercise. So, and it makes sense too, because when you exercise your muscles and you grow muscles, you're actually growing those brains and activating those neural circuits that are powering those muscles. So actually it's all about stimulating the neural networks, the nerve networks in your brain and getting them functioning, because we know that those neural networks, the brain cells that are doing that, building those muscles, are actually growing and interconnecting when you exercise and do weight exercises.
Okay.
So yes, the answer is exercises are very important to exercise your muscles.
So Colin, when I see you next time, I will give you a couple of weights. So the good thing is the SHARE classes do have weights, and we have different levels of weights as well. So that's terrific. Professor Kaarin, this one is for you. Have you an opinion on Dr. Michael Greger's vegan diet?
I don't know, Dr. Greger, that specific vegan diet. I think the issue with the vegan diet, if you look at it, I sort of tend to look at in terms of brain health, the dietary pattern of the mind diet, and you need to be able to cover all of those food groups. So you need to adapt diets to be able to make sure that you have the B vitamins, you have the correct amount of omega-3 fatty acids, etc. So some of the vegan diets, you'll need to ensure that those nutrients are supplemented, or work harder to get all of those nutrients. But I don't know that specific vegan diet.
Okay, we've got an interesting in dementia. Are there any chances of recovery? Professor Tuly, did you want to take that one, or Kaarin?
I mean, all right. Dementia is really an umbrella term for a number of diseases that cause gradual decline in cognitive function, but also other things like they cause mood symptoms and other motor symptoms. So it's an umbrella term, and then there's a number of diseases that cause dementia, one of which is Alzheimer's disease. So in Australia, about 65% of cases of dementia are caused by Alzheimer's disease. Yeah.
Okay.
And they're not, it is not reversible. Unfortunately, the brain damage caused by the pathology is not reversible. So we can sometimes get some slowing with some medication, but it's not, once it is sort of progressive. That's part of the definition, is that it's progressive. So there are some things that affect your cognition, which are reversible, but so then they would not meet a criteria for dementia.
Okay, very interesting. So I guess, we should really be looking at doing more preventative things around early onset of Alzheimer's or dementia, I guess. Professor Tuly, did you want to add something?
Well, can I just say that I think it's really important for us all to recognise that we are in the present, all to some extent, and take this with a grain of salt, but we're all dementing in some respect because our brains are getting older. And as we get older, there are a range of processes, degenerative processes, that affect us all. And although it takes a long time before somebody's going to come along and say, we meet the criteria, the very specific criteria that determine that we have cognitive impairment and dementia, it's a long road to there, and we're already on that road. So I think in terms of the purpose of this discussion, I think we need to just remind ourselves that we're all on that road. And now is the time that we need to start the strategies that will protect our brains for later when we need it.
Absolutely.
Very good advice here. I am conscious of time. I will take two more questions. One is to you, Professor Kaarin. You mentioned omega-3 is good. Is omega-6 good or bad to brain?
I don't think there's nearly as much certainty around omega-6 as omega-3. So most of the research has been on omega-3, but also the balance between the two. So it's really quite an area where there's not a consensus view at the moment. So what there is a good consensus on is that eating fish has been protective. But when you get down to, so people are more emphasising foods and dietary patterns and specific nutrients now.
Yeah, that's very true. Adrian, there's a couple of questions here for you. How many times a week should we exercise, and how do we get in touch with SHARE? Looks like there's some business here for you.
Amazing. That's a good question, Barbara. I'm always looking forward to generating new business, but especially keeping seniors active, healthy is my passion. As we all gonna age eventually, and I would like to age gracefully. The best way to contact with SHARE is through, you can visit your local GP. Look us up in the website with SHARE. You can go through the active, and you can speak to your physiotherapist. There's a number of ways that you can actually reach out to SHARE. Most of our participants actually come from word of mouth, from their neighbors, their friends, their doctors, their aunties, their grandparents, grandchildren. We always say it's never too late to exercise, And I always say, if you don't move it, you're going to lose it. So at SHARE, we do care. We encourage people at least exercise 3 to 4 times a week and eat healthy. Then you'll sleep well.
Thank you, Adrian. We will go into a very short video just to show you some healthy, nutritious food, and then we will close tonight's session. Thank you, Selena. Thank you, Selena. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this has come to the end of the session. Can I once again thank Professor Kaarin, Professor Tuly, and Adrian for all your time this evening. I'm certain, like me, all of you have found the session to be informative. We do have many other questions there, but one of the suggestions was to keep your healthy mind, was to keep your mind stimulated. So please, yes, do that. And learning a language is a good thing as well. Do that. Thank you for joining us today. We do appreciate it. Keep an eye out for our next session. In the meantime, please continue to exercise, join a SHARE class, eat well, and take care of your body. Bid you good night and thank you.
Barbara, thank you so much, Adrian and the professors. A wonderful, wonderful webinar. Thank you.
Thank you, Rosa.
Have a good night.
Night, night. I had so many more questions there. It's incredible.